Hi there, knife people, hello, lady and gentlemen. I was excited. I walked into a local store and I saw this knife, US made knife with the aluminum handles, 14C28N blade, under $60. This knife is Bear Ops Nekama. I was excited for two reasons. First of all, I never seen this knife coming. I somehow missed the release of it. And the second is, how often do you get an American-made knife? And I know it's American-made because I visited the factory in Jacksonville, Alabama, and I talked to their CEO roughly about a year ago. So I was excited. That is until I saw that Knife Center introduced it, and they did it in that manner. Here you go.
Under the Bear Ops label, the Nekama is clearly taking heavy inspiration from the Kershaw Iridium in its handles. Normally, I wouldn't always mention competitors to a particular knife's design, but with this handle, it's kind of hard to avoid that comparison. No, it's not an exact copy, but it feels almost like it is, if you know what I mean.
Wow, was that a dig? Is he right?
Here's the traced outlines of handles. Which one is the Nekama and which one is the Iridium? Can you tell by just looking at the piece of paper? If you said that the Nekama is on the right and the Iridium is on the left,
I don't feel bad. They're easy to mix up.
It's actually the other way around. I was shocked. I didn't even realize how similar they are until I did this traced outline.
Imagine how the designer of this knife, which is CJRB Maximo, would feel if, when introducing his knife in my review, I would have said something like, hey, one can't help but notice keen similarities between it and Benchmade Freak. I dare say there is the same amount of differences between these two knives as there are between these two knives. And the differences are on the same order of magnitude. In other words, some of them are subtle, some of them are not as subtle. But to say that this is a unique situation of some sort to the point where you introduce this brand new, well-made American knife to the world that way, I don't know. Sorry, guys. What do you guys feel? Let me know in the comments, please.
Let's do some size comparisons. Starting with full size and mini Iridium. And here is a US made Iridium Launch. Here is Bel Air from Kershaw as well. This is a US made knife. And here's the Bailout by Benchmade. Here's a Demco Nano Shark. This is the least expensive $99 version, and much more expensive is this Kunwu Excalibur.
This is a US-made knife compared to the Iridium's Chinese manufacturer, and yet this is less. This is about $63. So it's like $2 less than your baseline Iridium. The fit and finish don't feel quite as good as the Iridium. That is the trade-off.
I have plenty of respect for Dave, but I think here he's kind of on the limb. Let's focus on the finish that's being talked about. And just to bring another American knife into the conversation, here's the Iridium Launch Series, US made at Kershaw factory. Definitely there are some differences in the finish between even Kershaw models. The process obviously is not identical between the two factories. And I would say that the American-made version has more powdery feel to it, with the Chinese version being a little slicker. And right there in the corner, the Tanto blade belongs to another Bear Ops product called Rancor 5. This model came out probably 5 years ago. That's a very early US-made crossbar lock other than a Benchmade. The Nekama also runs on bearings. The finish, that's what we're talking about, right? So this is like sandblast anodized aluminum on both of the Kershaw models. As far as how it feels in hand, definitely the Bear Ops finish is a little sleeker. It is slickerish.
All right, we talked about the finish. Now let's talk about the fit. I see no issues with any of the components. The blade is centered. It opens and closes. Thumb flick, reverse flick, no problem. Iridium, however, is slightly off-center to the right on the screen. Let's see how it holds up to the Hype Smasher test later. Both knives are using the same hardware, T6s on the handle and T8 at the pivot. I would say fit and finish is a clear tie. The factory edge is on par with anything out there. Here I'm trying to engage the entire length of the blade, including the tanto section, and it did great. And here's the Iridium for comparison. A little bit of a notching on the edge, maybe a burr rolled over, something like that. All that probably stems from the original tests I did on this knife. Let me grab my USB-C microscope. Very inexpensive device that I got on Amazon. And originally I purchased it to do these videos, but it became an indispensable, absolutely critical tool in my sharpening. It actually even works with older Apple connectors. I cut one off, but it came with dual connectors. Anyway, it became an indispensable tool in my sharpening because I can get very close to the edge using its app on any of my handheld devices. This app can record a very high resolution video, and that's what's coming up next. The two knives side by side for your enjoyment. Let's chill, look at the blades, look at the edges, decide for ourselves which ones we like better. I am sure it's very noticeable to you that the secondary bevel on the Iridium on the left there is significantly narrower than that on the Nekama, which means it has a more obtuse secondary bevel angle, making it a little less slicey than it could have been should they kept the angle a little bit more acute, like Bear Ops did on the Nekama. The primary grind is almost the same height, and the blade thickness is basically the same. I'm almost certain that the end user would hardly notice the performance difference in cutting ability. Clear evidence of mass production is evident. Evidence is evident because neither manufacturer spent a lot of time stropping the edges. Not an issue. We have a Beaver Craft strop around. It's a pretty high quality strop made in Ukraine, and I am shamelessly promoting it on my channel because I am from Ukraine as well. So I am going to strop the blades a little bit and then assess the cutting performance. All the tools that I use in this video are linked in the description, and when you use those links, it helps my channel out, but you don't have to do that. On the strop, I'm using TechDiamondTools paste, which is a US-made honing compound, which comes in various different grits, starting at 1500 and going all the way up to 20,000. I think I've taken the Nekama as far as I can with just a Strop. And let's take a quick look here. Let's see. Yeah, definitely cleaned some of the edge burr off. It's still not perfect, and I think I will end up resharpening this knife eventually. Let's work on the Iridium for a little while. My number one rule in stropping is there are no rules in stropping. Another great way to support my channel is joining the membership by clicking on my logo, Join Now. This way you will get early access to some of my videos. The reason to have a quality strop with one side that is smooth, this side tells you exactly where the remaining burr or any kind of edge imperfections are because they show up as striations on that leather. Well, I think I've taken it as far as I can. Let's take a quick look. I don't know. I saw some rolls, edge rolls. I'm not sure I got rid of them. Let's try to find them. Right there. This edge is being a little more stubborn. It's D2. It's a wear-resistant steel, so it will resist stropping just as it would resist the wear. So that's understandable, and this is definitely a candidate for sharpening on one of my fixed angle devices. All right, time to torture the knife. This is my Hype Smasher. This is a modified arbor press. It has a 2.5-pound ram that drops down. I removed the gear mechanism from it to allow the free fall of this ram. And I estimate the striking force on the blade of about 40 pounds of force. The knife is clamped in this device, which is designed to emulate a human hand grip. The knife is held in place by steel rods clad in rubber hose to emulate the skeletal and textural structure of your hand, in my non-medical opinion. So it's not 100% rigid, but it feels exactly as it would in your hand when you're gripping the knife. I clamped it so that the lock remains operational throughout the test, so I can disengage the lock. This is how I determine whether or not the lock survives the strike. The distance here is 6 inches. The top of the blade is leveled, so I don't need to adjust the ram strike for height. So I basically insert it here and let it go. And then I test the lock. And obviously the lock unlocked and it locked back again. I'm going to do another strike. Same result. Unlocking is good. Lock back in place. And last strike, it survived. Let's check the function this one last time. It functions. Let's unclamp the thing. Okay, and now check the functionality. Okay, it opens, drops shot. Did the play open up? I got a little side-to-side play. No up and down play, so let's grab our Hoto driver and see if we can tune that side-to-side play out. T8 at the pivot, so I'm going to tighten it a little bit. Okay, that is gone. I went maybe 1/16 of a turn. Does it still function? Yep. It has brass steel ball bearings. They're clad in a brass racetrack, as opposed to Iridium, which has tiny little nylon-bound steel bearings. Okay, so we'll call it a pass with a minor adjustment. This next procedure demonstrates whether or not the knife can resist some flexural or side loading. With the help of my little friend, I'm going to hammer the knife about 3/8 of an inch deep into this hardwood block. And the protractor here is set to 15 degrees. That's where the rod is pointing. And now I am going to flex the blade. Oh, forgot to do an important thing. Before I start, let's check how straight the blade is right now. I'm doing the boiking test. Making sure that both sides feel and sound the same. By sight and sound and feel, I can tell the blade is straight. So now we hammer it back in. Okay, and proceed. Okay. Okay, and now I'm going to apply torsional stress to the mechanism. 3 times in each direction. Oops, sorry, here, 2. And 3. That puts a lot of strain on the internal components. So let's take the knife out and examine. I see deformation here. We'll illustrate on the boinker here. This is just a flat piece of metal. Listen for this. And on the other side, you can tell the difference. One more time. All right, so the blade did bend a little bit at the tip, which is not a good predictor for the hardness, because I've tested probably a dozen, maybe more knives in this steel, 14C28N, and predominant majority of them remain straight. So how's the rest of it? I got side-to-side play, no up and down play. Let's see if I can tune the side-to-side out. Yeah, about a tenth of a turn did it. And now I am going to put it back in and try to straighten it out a little bit. So this blade is not particularly elastic or resilient, but it's a tough steel. So it looks like I might have gotten that bend out. Let's see. That was the concave side. I feel like I got, I'm going to call it almost all of that deformation out. All right, this is the time where we nerd out on the blade steel. Nekama's blade is made out of 14C28N, which is a trademark for Sandvik of Sweden. I was used to seeing Bear Ops blades coated with ceramic coating. Imagine my surprise when I realized this is PVD, which is a notch up from ceramic as far as durability. Before I start hardness testing, I am going to show you that my calibration is still good. For that, I'm using my independently certified, serialized, and rated 62 HRC test block. I'm going to do a poke and see if my device is within repeatability calibration of plus or minus 1/2 of the HRC point. The video, by the way, is accelerated. Our first poke yields 62.2, which tells me I am within the calibration. And now I am testing the blade. I remove coating from one side because while I'm showing you this test, I'm also trying to answer the question that's been plaguing steel nerds forever. Does the presence of coating on the blade change the hardness test results? It's an interesting question, and there are different answers out there. Meanwhile, the first poke yields 57.2 HRC, which is on a bare minimum of recommended hardness by the steel's manufacturer. My working theory on the coatings is the coating itself doesn't change the result of the Rockwell tester. However, the application of the coating, we got 57.5 this time. Where was I? Application of coating itself is a heat-intensive process. I am removing the dimples here from the first two pokes to flip it over to the coated side. So when manufacturers do not pre-plan for heat-applied coatings, they actually subjecting the blades to an additional tempering cycle. Whoops, my camera zoomed out. My wristwatch is my monitor, so it commanded it to zoom out. It's okay, we'll continue. I'm trying to keep the segment uninterrupted. So in my book, coating stainless blades to beautify them is doubly stupid. Tell you why in a sec. 57.5 HRC. The majority of basic stainless steels temper at a much lower temperature than some of the tool steel varieties. By the way, I switched to the Iridium's blade here, which is made of somewhat corrosive yet uncoated D2. Almost every manufacturer does this stupid crap, and I don't understand why. If the design aesthetics calls for a coated blade, 60.7 HRC, just make it out of D2 or 3V, and then the coating is justified. And because they temper at much higher temperatures, the coating will not affect the final hardness. So no pre-planning is required. 61 HRC here. Anything above 60 HRC for D2 is acceptable. Clearly, both manufacturers are erring on the side of toughness versus edge retention, probably due to warranty concerns. Let's have a discussion about coatings in the comments. And we got 60.5 on the final poke. Well, I'm conflicted about whether or not I would actually be recommending the Nekama or not, mainly due to the screw up in the heat treatment process or final hardness. The process might have been great, but the final hardness after application of coating is on the absolutely minimal side. I think if they planned it a little better, where they did uncoated blades to maybe 61 HRC, 14C28N can take these and higher treatments. and then coated it to get it back into factory recommended 59 to 60 HRC or 58 to 60 HRC range, I think they would please more of their customers that way. And they would not be increasing any risk of unnecessary warranty repairs. If you are super hardness conscious knife collector, check out the uncoated version. I think it actually looks pretty cool. And now let's recap. Materials are on par. Some would argue that 14C is a little bit better steel than D2. Handle material, identical. Hardware, in the same realm. Same type of highlights. This one actually has pivot collars. This one doesn't. Pocket clips. Both are decent. This one actually works better in the pocket because the neck is higher and the spacing is wider. Minor difference. Removable thumb studs, an easy way to sharpen. That's a big plus. This one is lacking both of these features. But those are minor differences, so I'm still having difficulty recommending. So I'm counting on you to let me know. Which one would you pick if you were shopping for a quality knife in a $60 price range?